Hello and welcome to Push Your Glasses Up. I'm Mikey. Today I'm joined once again by Casey to talk about yet another Ninja Turtles movie. We're talking about Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Mutant Mayhem. There's a lot of mutants in that title. If you enjoy these videos, please like them, subscribe to the channel, and if you want to get them in audio-only format, just look us up on whatever podcast service you use. You can probably find us there. Let's talk about Ninja Turtles. Casey, welcome back to the show again.
Hey, glad to be back.
I thought you were just going to leave it at
More Ninja Turtles.
Hey.
I don't know how to converse.
Converse, yes. We are rounding out our, for now at least, Ninja Turtles talk with Mutant Mayhem. What'd you think of it?
Well, spoiler alert, I liked it a lot. I think it's it's easily like top two for me of any of the movies that they put out. It was really fun. I think a lot of what I'm gonna say is not gonna be anything like earth-shatteringly new based off of some of the reviews I've seen, but I think overall really fun tone. Really great animation, really, just it felt unique in its take on the Turtles. And I think that some of the changes I really liked, some of them I didn't love, but I think it's like a solid, like if I had to give it like an out of a 10 score, like I'd say like a 7.5, 8 out of 10. But, really like the foundation that they're laying in terms of, obviously, they've already announced a sequel and an animated series that, I guess will bridge the gap between 1 and 2. So I'm really excited to see what they continue to do with this take on them. So yeah, I'm really excited to see how they continue this take and continue to evolve and just see where the story goes, because I think they clearly, it seems a little bit more geared towards the comic stuff with all of the mutants and the what's the scientist name?
Cynthia Utrum.
Who's it? Maya Rudolph. Utrum, yeah. Which
that's the species of Krang. Yeah.
Right. So
not Cynthia. Utrum.
Yeah, I definitely think that there's maybe some hints to some more of the more sci-fi aspects of what they did in the comics, especially the early days of the Eastman and Laird comics. So I'm down for that because, as we spoke about in our last time we talked, there's a pretty wide swath of different villains that they could use. And granted, they used a lot of them and introduced a lot of them in this movie, but I think that there's still more that they could do, and obviously there's a big villain that
we'll get to that. It's an interesting thing that I kind of think about this. I think that this technically, I have to differentiate these things. It is not my favorite Ninja Turtles movie, but I do think it's technically the best Ninja Turtles movie, just in terms of
sure.
a project put together. It's super fun, really funny, genuinely funny, and not just us holding on to nostalgia funny a lot of the jokes in some of the Ninja Turtles movies of yore could be. But it's super stylish, and we talk about a lot the inspiration from Spider-Verse and stuff like that, which it obviously is inspired by Spider-Verse in terms of going for it in style. It's not directly Spider-Verse, for all of its different stuff. It's a much cleaner look to it. And what I had read about this movie is that they kind of went with the idea of what if we made it kind of look like the doodles you would do in your notebook when you were in high school.
Yeah.
And so that's why it's like messy and scratchy and stuff. And I think that all of that works together. I like the fact that it's like, it's kind of gross out style, like Garbage Pail Kidsy a little bit. And like, I think the barf stuff worked. Like, I think that a lot of the time it doesn't. I genuinely found this very funny. I think part of it is because they didn't try to go like real barf with it. They went like neon green. And so it was like, makes it more cartoony and funny. But yeah, I think it's a really interesting take. It's very much like, I'm not saying it's kid friendly, but I think it's a more modern kids style thing. Like in terms of, it's very different from like Adventure Time, but it's like, I feel like it fits hand in hand with that sort of trajectory of like Adventure Time was, 13 years ago it started or whatever, but like, it was crazy. But like, I can see where you get to hear from there. And a lot of that is that whole like CalArts kind of style that comes through and stuff. And the director of this movie is one of the directors of Mitchell's versus the Machines, and that is a phenomenal movie. And like there's a lot of things that come together on this that I think just work well in tandem with one another. I think like Seth Rogen, that whole like team of producing partners and whatever, Eric Goldberg,
Evan Goldberg,
Evan. I know Eric Goldberg, who is a entertainment journalist. I confuse those names all the time. But yeah, or Goldman. See, I did it again. But that whole side of it with the direction of Jeff Rowe and the style that they all came up with the art team, like I think it all like coalesced into not this like the way that Into the Spider-Verse is sort of like a miracle of a movie, especially with like who was in charge of those things and stuff. But like, when I say that, I don't mean the directing team. I mean Avi Arad. But yeah, it just all came together in a way that is like surprising and fun and funny. And like the action is really cool. Like Splinter being voiced by Jackie Chan, they straight up put a Jackie Chan action sequence into the movie where he's like using the environment to do stuff. It's like super, super cool.
Yeah. It's funny. Well, not funny. I mean, it's just a fact. You mentioned I didn't realize the director was involved with the Mitchells versus the Machines, but it makes total sense, especially because like, as much as I personally like didn't love the vomit joke, because it's like, show don't tell. I don't think you need to.
You're a prude.
I don't think they need. Like I just don't think they needed to. That one scene in particular feels extremely Mitchells versus the Machines, of like they would cut to like do one of those funny things of like just the way they animated her face, where it's like, oh, that's like when they would like in Mitchells versus the Machines like put like a meme over somebody's face or something like that.
Yeah.
Like, oh yeah, this feels
or
very
like it's very I think
face is so silly.
Yeah, and I think I equated it a lot to when I was talking to somebody else about it. Like it was a Simpsons reaction. Like when it cuts away to somebody and they're just like, a lot of that kind of vibe came through with like the faces in this movie. But
yeah, you talk about the action sequences though, and that was something that like I will say, like obviously animation makes, you have kind of an unlimited budget in terms of like what you can do, but yeah, I totally agree. Like that Splinter sequence, very Jackie Chan-esque. That first sequence that they do a fight, and then that one sequence where they are like going from gang to gang and
the montage,
and like every turtle gets a highlight moment was just extremely well done.
Yeah, those highlight slow-mo moments may as well have just been like key art that they like were giving an example on.
And so I think I definitely like your take on empirically it's probably the best, but it might not be my favorite.
We're attached to the first one.
It's top two. Yeah, I think. Well, I was listening to.
I'm wearing the shirt.
I was listening. Yeah, Well, an interesting point that came up was, and I'm not going to quote it directly, but I was listening to another podcast talking about this. We have to stop talking TMNT on CBB, and they talked about this movie, and Sean Diston, one of the co-hosts, was saying like he knows it's good, but he's like, but it's not my Turtles. And he's like, every generation I think has their Turtles, and I mean it is a franchise that like basically every 10 or so years there's a new cartoon, there's a new movie, there's a new something.
It's always
and it revamps itself.
It's always cycling. In between the movies, there's a new cartoon. There's always a comic in the background. Like something's always happening.
So I think it is like a good call out of saying, I acknowledge this is really good and I do like it, but I will always have that sort of spot for that first one for all of the reasons we talked about in our last episode that we talked about them. But
this is the difference between like a review score and like a letterbox top list, like a ranked list.
But like, again, for all the things that I love about the live action, there are things in this that I'm just like, oh, finally somebody did that. Like, obviously everyone's been talking about like, oh yeah, finally they focus on like the teenage aspect.
The vibe
like,
of the kids.
These are all voiced. Yeah, these are all voiced by, teens. They were all recorded together. They seem like they were having a lot of fun and being a part of this. And like, it's going to be really interesting to see them like evolve over time. Cause like clearly at least two of these kids, their voice hasn't changed. Yeah. And we're probably going to see that. And it's like, I think that's going to be, or not see that, but like hear that. And, that's an interesting aspect of being like, oh yeah, these are teenagers, these are kids. And the sense that they want to belong is something that is like, I can't think of another time where like the Ninja Turtles, that's been their desire, not just hanging out, but it's like they actually want to make friends and be teenagers and go out and go to high school. Like that was a very interesting plot point to me of, because there's like that cynical like adult point of view where you're just like, well, that's weird. Like, why do they want to go to school, or why do they like want to date a girl?
Well, it's you boil it down, and it's just wanting to belong. Like right. When we specify like, going to school or whatever, it differentiates a little bit from the point of it being they feel like outsiders and they want to belong, and that's what every teenage movie is about. Like, so it's like, right. You think about any like good John Hughes, well, maybe not Ferris Bueller, he's the cool kid, but like the John Hughes style of like an outsider wanting to belong in like the grander scheme of things. That's, I think they nail that stuff. That is where like most of the heart of this movie, I would say, is, even though I think that it does a really good job doing like the sort of yin and yang, not to go too far into the like balance aspect of Superfly and Splinter, but like they do a really good job of like, they're both doing what they're doing for the same reason, but they're doing it in very different ways. And one is taking an offensive and one is standing back and trying to protect the people he loves. And I think that that's actually an interesting way to do things. And because you wouldn't like, if this is a quote unquote kids movie, you don't usually see that kind of sort of thought process of seeing multiple POVs for that kind of storyline. And I think that that's really interesting that they're able to balance that stuff in on top of the Turtles specific story. Like everybody in this movie, essentially, even the small, like the cameo mutants, like they mostly got arcs. They're not full, like crazy arcs, like, but it's, some of the characters are, you experience like they're not really fully into the idea of doing the bad stuff with Superfly. Like Bebop and Rocksteady, I kind of felt like would have been, but like everybody else kind of feel like they only had half a toe dipped in because they were like, well, my older brother's kind of making me do this. And so they
well, it's also the thing of they haven't been presented
options
on alternatives.
Yeah. And so it's really cool what they're able to manage in this movie with like, it's already a big cast with, even if you discount the, like for an animated movie, it's already a big cast even if you discount the extra mutants, even if it's just
Right.
Superfly, Baxter, Cynthia Utrom, all the Turtles, Splinter, like you start to build up enough there that it's like, I was a little worried going into it. Like, how are they gonna, that's a lot of mutants, guys. That's a lot of folks to introduce. And I think they did it the right way, where they're just, because they had the names for a lot of them, like some of them were not like huge star cameo names or whatever, but like you have Paul Rudd, you have John Cena, you like, all you need to do with them is like give them a couple moments and the character will shine because you have who you have. And so they knew that, like, I think particularly Seth Rogen with some of them being like his good buddies was basically like, yeah, you're just going to come in for a couple of quick VO sessions and then you're good. Don't worry about it. Yeah.
Yeah. I think, I would have liked a little bit more time with that group. And especially like it isn't, it's a really interesting take to be like, cool, now we're all going to be one big family and like friends.
Yeah.
Invite, especially, I was talking with my wife about this and I was just like, I think I remember most of those characters are allies from when I was a kid, except for Bebop and Rocksteady.
Well, some of them were both sides.
And then like maybe,
Leatherhead.
Like, oh yes, Leatherhead was more of a villain.
Yeah, and so I think some of them 75% villain, and then like an episode here or there of the original cartoon, they'd be like, okay, we'll begrudgingly team up. But
but
like Mondo Gecko, it's
right. So I think,
and I'm waiting for Ace Duck. Swear to fucking God, we better get Ace Duck.
I like him. I always wanted his action figure.
Had him. The wings never stayed in his back. There was one little peg; it never stayed in.
Those are magnificent wings for a duck.
Yes, yeah. Also, he has hands and also wings, and he's like a Final Fantasy character.
I know. But yeah, I think it's a really interesting take. I'm curious to see, because like that is the one criticism I've seen is just like, oh, like, Bebop and Rocksteady are villains. Like they are villains. Like why are they just like so quick to be like, yeah, I'm not into that. I don't want to be evil, but like I wonder if they will have a turn in the sequel or anything like that, which also could be interesting of allies turned enemies. But it was, yeah, I don't know. I guess interesting is just like all I can say about it, because I wasn't expecting that, and to not really have much conflict with all of these other mutants was a little disappointing. Like I wanted it to be a little bit more like cool, like all these characters we've never seen on the big screen before, and then it's just like, oh, we're still just fighting Superfly, an original creation for this movie.
Which, also interesting. Like it's, typically it would be Baxter turning himself into a fly. But I do like what they did in changing this to be, Baxter being an outcast himself and basically creating a family of mutants because he wanted to belong. Like it's everybody in this movie is like a purposeful wanting to belong. And I like that it worked that way for the bad guys as well as the good guys. And it's a little bit strange to like, I think if they didn't go the route of like having so many characters, they could have spent a little more time on like, why Bebop and Rocksteady would have like transferred over instead of just being like, maybe you're the reason we're angry all the time. But like, I think the way that they did do it with that many characters, like they weren't going to be able to like dive deep, unfortunately. But I'm interested to see where they go with that. I could see, we can like talk about spoilers at this point. It's pretty deep into it, but like they tease Shredder in the mid credits to like for the next movie or maybe even the show, who knows? But I could see there being a thing where they are coaxed away because they are still dummies, and probably easily manipulated. So I could see them having that sort of situation where they're pulled over into helping Shredder and having a betrayal story for the Turtles after the Turtles helped them out. But I like with that whole situation with them inviting people in, I think that's something we're seeing more often in general and I don't typically think of the Ninja Turtles as like superheroes, but like whatever. But like you think like No Way Home was also about like saving the villains instead of like letting them die off at the end, and rather than defeating them, helping them. And so I think we're seeing that a little bit more. It is going to get annoying if we see that all the time. I do want one villain at once in a while to just like get wrecked. But like it is refreshing to have it a little bit, especially with like, you know, the MCU is kid friendly, but like it's not. I don't think of Marvel as like as associated with kids as I do like Ninja Turtles, just strictly because of the way that we grew up, probably. But like it's one of those things where I'm like, it's probably good in this movie to do that, to like show these teenage kids not wanting to just like murder other mutants. So it's like I'm on board with this direction for it, as long as it's like it has some interesting ebbs and flows with it as well, and it's not just like every time they're just going to adopt a new person into the super. So
but yeah, I think the relationship of the Turtles, though, super solid. Really loved. I just really like them all in this. I think it's really good characterization. I also think it's really good character designs that I don't like. The last couple cartoons, I've just been like, I don't like this design. I don't like, and same with like the live action
Rise of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I think it's like is like 50-50. I really liked Michelangelo's design on that one, and I kind of liked Leo's design, but I didn't. Maybe it was Donnie I liked more. He had like the goggles on his head. But I didn't love Raph in that. They keep making Raph, like I think he's better in this because like they're generally similar size. But like in the Michael Bay movies, they're all like, first of all, they specifically say in those movies that they are 6 feet tall. What? In what world are any of them 6 feet? The smallest one is like 9 feet tall, and then Raphael's like 13 feet tall. Michael Bay doesn't know what feet are. He thinks a meter is a foot. But yeah, I'm with you. Like it's every iteration is going to be like hit or miss, at least part way, if not all the way. And it's like, you know, that goes back to the original movies where it's like the Henson suits, all of them terrific, every single one of them terrific. And then 3 and the next mutation suits, just the worst. But that applies to the cartoons as well.
Interesting. I've just always found it interesting when that's like why at some point we get to summon bandanas, summon in the full like head wrap, I guess.
I think it's weirdly like, the head wrap one, I think came from the Michael Bay movies, because it's been like Raphael has had that in every single one after the Michael Bay movie. Because I can't recall any of the cartoons.
One of them had it. One of them in Next Mutation definitely did.
Well, in Next Mutation, yes, it was Michelangelo that did, I think.
Okay.
But so it's just what I think one of them was. Oh no! Here's the thing. I think it was Donatello had the skull cap one. Michelangelo had the one that like basically covered his whole face except for the mouthpiece.
Yes,
it was so weird.
Donatello had full skull cap covering his cheeks.
And
bandana
and the Gambit
cheeks,
stuff,
open head. And then Leonardo had full bandana.
So we blame the Next Mutation. We blame Nick Saban.
Yeah, basically.
But yeah, I think it has always just been about like, it gives them that much more to like mess with individual personalities. And I think for Raph, the full skull cap works because he's a bruiser. It gives him that little bit extra attitude and whatever. But like, yeah, I don't particularly love it. I appreciate that in this one, it is just Raph. The rest of them have just the regular bandanas. Like, I think this is like the perfect blend of designs because this feels like, I mean, they even have the yellow letters on their belts from the cartoon. Like, I think that this is the pick and choose like which styles you want to take from, and like, if this can apply, we can put it into it. Whereas like the Michael Bay movies, where they were just like, okay, we're making these giant beasts, we're gonna give Michelangelo puka shells, and that's his, because he's a surfer dude. I mean,
well, because they've always done, like, I think it started with Rise or maybe the Michael Bay, but it's like, something about it always bothered me. Like, why does Donatello need to have goggles or glasses, or one of them's wearing headphones all the time, or one of them's wearing this or that, and like, but in this, because they're less bulky and they're more kid-like, it just worked for me, where it's like, oh, Donatello wears glasses even though he doesn't have ears, and like there's literally shots of like they're just saying it's like,
it would be funny if there were little holes that like went into the bandana or anything, but like in the cartoon it doesn't have to.
So
I don't mind Donatello having glasses, by the way. It's a little bit of stereotyping of the nerd guy to have glasses, but like, whatever.
Give Raph the glasses. It's a bruiser with glasses. Come on.
Just a completely aggro person who like can't see 2 feet in front of him. That's gonna go well. Just punching walls because he can't see anybody.
Did you have a favorite of the turtles in this?
I mean, I always kind of gravitate towards the combinations of turtles rather than like individual ones. So, and a lot of the time it is going to be Michelangelo and Donatello, because like I really like that pairing. I think of them as like the fun ones, and they always are able to bounce off of, like, this movie. It's a lot less of like the melodrama between Raph and Leo, but like there's still the seriousness of Leo and like the aggressiveness of Raph. So it's still there a little bit, and it allows like the comic relief to come from these two for Raph and Leo having their little bit of like headbutting. In this one, it was a little more of an endearing headbutting as opposed to like actually arguing with each other, or having like a rooftop battle, as in TMNT. But yeah, that's kind of how I always roll, because it's like, it's the thing of like, whenever somebody asks me like, who's your favorite Ninja Turtle, I'm like, I don't have one, because I relate. Like all 4 of them have they're part of my personality. So like, I am a nerdy person. I am the fun one who is like covering up emotional stuff. I am like aggressive at sometimes, and sometimes, when stuff gets serious, I do have to like be the Leo. Like it's very strange for me, and it's always been that way. Like I have my favoritism in terms of like when I was a kid, because like that's why my favorite color is orange. That's why I have an orange guitar to this day. Like it's, but yeah. What about you? Are you less convoluted about
I think if I had to put like in this particular movie, if I had to pick, and I'll go with the combo because I like that idea, is like, I really think Donatello and Raph were my favorites in this. Like, I think Leo just becomes a little too, I just didn't love his arc of like, I really want to be like, I have a crush on April.
I really have to date April.
Like, work on that. Like I was, whatever. I get why they're doing it. It's a kids movie. It's a kids movie. It is a kids movie. It's not.
It is a little. It took some getting used to, because a lot of the time that is a Donatello storyline. So
right, and it's it feels more like in the first one, obviously they're like, ooh, get April, you know, whatever.
Yeah.
But it feels more like teasing,
Yeah.
and like not an actual like I want to
Little brother style. Yeah.
yeah. Versus this was like, oh yeah, like you want to go to prom with her.
Yes. Going to April's father, sir. I would like to take your.
So. And I mean, it's been now a little over a week since I saw it, so maybe I'm forgetting, but I just felt like Mikey didn't have enough moments to shine as like
a lot of it
really
was like the background animation when somebody else was talking,
right.
like when they're doing the ooze thing and he's in the background and he's just like ooze.
yeah. Like there are definitely funny parts, and like I've always loved even from the first trailer where he's just like, hey, how come this is shaped exactly like my head? And
yeah,
they add the joke, your head is like a combination of Hey Arnold and Stewie. It's like a
really
great
good
joke.
A lot more referential humor in this one than I was expecting, but I think it all worked. A lot of anime stuff, which is like,
yeah,
you know, we talked about the generational stuff of like every generation has a Ninja Turtle. This is extremely this generation's Ninja Turtles. Like the references in this, like BTS and Attack on Titan. I mean, I watched almost a decade ago, but like it's one of those things where it's like it's a very youth oriented thing for references.
Yes. So, but I just think Donatello had a lot of really endearing moments to shine, and like I really do think they got his personality like really well, like across really well. And then Raphael, I like the kid who voices him just because I've only seen him in one other thing, which is the Mighty Duck show on Disney Plus, which is like whatever, it's fine. But I did find him endearing as an actor in that, and like him voicing Raphael and being
was he one of the new Bash Brothers? Because that would actually make perfect sense for him to put him in the role of Raph.
He was the main kid, but
he was the new Joshua Jackson.
Yeah, basically. But I don't know. I think the energy that they gave Raph of like this, I can't even contain how excited I am to fight versus I'm just aggressive and I can't, like, I'm hot headed. It's like it's a little bit of a more fun spin on like real Raph has rage issues.
Yes.
This is like I just need to
get out the energy. Yeah. Although I think they do play with it a little bit where Donatello is like, you may need therapy.
right. But I think it's like, again, from the first trailer, like there's that moment where he's like, I can't wait to fight. And it's like,
I dream about it every night.
Yeah, that's what it is. And I just like, I like that characterization. I think it's fun, and it still gets across that constant, like that continuous thread of like, oh, Raph is
that is the personality trait.
Rude but crude, or rude but cool. So I think those two were the highlights for me.
It's cool but rude.
Cool but rude. Sorry, it's hard to do it if I'm not singing it.
If you're not singing the song written by the creator of Everybody Loves Raymond,
Chuck Lorre.
Yep.
So I
hope we taught really one person that factoid today.
I know, I do too. It's a great fun fact. I think those two worked really well for me. And then, I mean, like the rest of the voice cast was like so stacked. I just feel, it might have just, some of them were underutilized. Like I would have loved to hear way more of Hannibal Buress as Genghis Frog. Or,
I would say he was the one that
Burn as Leatherhead.
Yeah, I would say
funny
more than anything, Hannibal Buress was the one like least used, like super least used. What, 2 lines?
Maybe 3.
And most everybody else only had between like 5 and 10. It's not like they had to, like Paul Rudd got the most, but still. But that's the thing, is like I think the supporting cast, like this could just be a Turtles movie. With how well all of those kids like melded and like just became that group of kids. But like Jackie Chan is fantastic in this movie. as he is in like most things. And he does a really good job with like the sort of like the sadder stuff, but like also like, dude, I'm so glad we got like funny Jackie Chan stuff too. Cause like just the origin story stuff when he's like punishing the kids and he's just like, well, no, you're going to listen to it now. And he's just like, I was a shitty little rat. They didn't try to make anything out of it. And I think the cartoon aspect of it helps this because it's almost the exact same origin story for Splinter as the Michael Bay version. But like, it's so much better for some reason, even though it is just like a rat read a book. But like the way that they cut like the YouTube videos and the martial arts movies is like, it works so much better.
Yeah, I just remembered the Chris cardboard cutouts, and I was just like, man, that was so funny.
It's like such an unnecessary, like, that's a time capsule joke, but like it's still gonna be funny.
Yeah, and it feels very dad-esque. Like,
yeah, exactly.
It's fine. I'm the best
especially because it's like it's a joke from 3 years ago already. And that's the thing when we were talking about with the very first movie is they were doing like the Cagney impression. It's like it'll probably last longer because it's already an old joke.
Right.
But yeah, I really like the running gag of the milking and like the when Michelangelo says like, oh, Leo, you ratted us out. And he cuts him off and goes, hey, don't use that word that way. And it's like, it's such a funny, like smart, funny too. Like it's clever. It's not just joke for joke's sake.
I think my favorite joke though, throwaway liner or one-liner was like, I think it's when they're sneaking back into the sewer after maybe like the first 30 minutes, they're sneaking back and they walk by somebody who says, man, I love being able to go out and do stuff whenever I want. It's the director. Isn't it great how we can just go out and do whatever we want anytime?
It's fantastic. Yeah. Man. Yeah. Just like those kind of one-liners and stuff that just like feed the background into this being a world instead of just like it could be like the TMNT movie. Like it doesn't really feel like anything is happening in the world outside of the Ninja Turtles, right? So it's like there's no, it's the problem that people like ding review scores on video games where it's like, this doesn't feel like anybody lives here. You're just like going through an empty world or whatever. And that's like the opposite of this movie. This entire, like it, to the point that it straight up has the you mess with one of us, you mess with all of us moment from Spider-Man. Like, it works for the story that they're telling in this, but yeah,
it does.
It's cheesy.
I would be totally fine if that never comes up in a movie ever.
I know. Yeah. But I do, they kind of had to have that moment with the fact that it was like, they wanted to be accepted by New York. So they like Spider-Man, it just comes out of nowhere. Well, it doesn't come out of nowhere. It comes out of post 9/11, but in movie, it doesn't come out. But yeah, but like that, even to the point where like, it's not really a sky beam ending, but it is like, there's a big monster. Like the stakes are bigger than they need to be in this, but like, I still think that works here because it, if it was just Superfly and just shutting off the sky beam, whatever. So like super mutate him, do the super shredder thing and like have a conflict there. But there's even like really great jokes that come out of that where like after they do the super cool swim back from across the water and like April does the like pseudo Akira slide and like tosses the gun to Raph and Raph lines up and shoots, hits him, starts to like demutate him, and one horse comes off and he's like, I'll be fine without that. Like, it's just such like they work in like little moments, little jokes and little moments that are just like, they could have just stopped the movie there, I guess, but like that gives them that much more room for like more action stuff. And then they do they reference Attack on Titan a lot in this movie. But then they pay it off by literally shooting the finale of the fight as if it's Attack on Titan. So it's like they tie all this stuff together so well.
I thought that was done pretty well. And like, while I was not expecting like basically a kaiju fight at the end of this, it also makes total sense for this franchise.
Yeah,
that something like that would happen. And I can't think of a time they've ever done something like that. But it's like,
what do you think happens when the mutating machine falls into the water full of sea creatures? Like, it's so good.
Yeah. So yeah, I think it was not what I was expecting. It was, and especially like, okay, they don't really fight him. They just have to figure out how to just like revert him back. And it is a very like,
I think
it works very well.
It's like not a Spider-Man movie, but I do think it's like a very Spider-Man climax to this. And again, not just because of the one of us, all of us thing, but like just in the way that they need to figure out a solution that isn't just beating him up. Which, you know, the movies do that as well for Spider-Man, but like that's more of a comics thing, and like it's some of the shows. But yeah,
I mean, pivoting to like, okay, so now they've fought that. So like, how do they move on to a sequel, and how do they either up the stakes or change it? And like, that is the one thing that like, as we're talking about this, I'm just like, okay, I do hope that if Shredder is truly going to be the villain of the second one, like I do hope that becomes more of a traditional, like, hey, we're going to fight him versus, like, I do think that is, you know, granted, in the old cartoons, Shredder always had gadgets and machines and stuff, and it's like, I hope they don't do that. I would like to just see a cool action sequence.
Oh, but they are 100. They're 100% going to reference the video games and have a POV from inside of a mech, and one of the turtles is going to throw a foot soldier, like, which is going to be great. That'll be a great reference. I would appreciate that. But like, I think you're gonna have to accept a little bit of that, especially in this version where it's like there's a lot of like completely unspoken of science, like tech and stuff going on.
Yeah, that is true.
Like they're using like ray guns and stuff.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and again, it's always the franchise has always been like especially if like you just, again, going back to like the first like year or two of the original comics, it's like it's both very grounded and then very quickly goes into like sci-fi fantasy genres and back and forth. And so I think that's fun. I just, you know, again, I think if they can do whatever they want with animation in terms of like making they are not hindered by physical suits or, you know, CGI.
They can do really cool fight choreography.
Yeah. And so I think that would be, and plus, like, I do wonder, like, are they, again, as like these actors age, are they going to age up the turtles in any way? Like, again, that's something we've never seen before. Like, they can go from 15 to 16, 17.
I could still
get to 20 though. They must not hit 20.
20 something Mutant Ninja Turtles. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I hope that
I could see them like having those kids knowingly under contract, like they'll probably give them voice coaches to like, as they start to change their voice, they can still like go back to the old voice or whatever.
Right.
But yeah.
Like, I also
Donatello next movie is just going to be like, yes, I am this deep now. Like, it would be weird. Yeah, I'm interested to see where they go with the Shredder stuff, because like it is sort of reverse setup at this point, where it's like usually you have Shredder and then you find out later that like Krang or the Utrum species is sort of like in control, whereas like apparently he was on the payroll like at some point, but just wasn't used in this at all. By the way, the number one like right hand man for Cynthia Utrum, like the guy with the like huge neck, and like it gave me such like Ren and Stimpy human being vibes. Like the screaming guy with the Charlton Heston voice, kind of like.
Yes.
Yeah.
I kept thinking he was gonna have a more significant something.
Yeah, just a guy. Just a guy. I could see them like continuing to use him because he's not like he's the only one that wasn't like dead in this. But I'd be interested to see them like pull those like original characters and like the way they did Baxter with Superfly and like adapt that guy into something else. But like, I'm also curious like how they like, they're going to bring in Casey Jones. Like, I'm interested to see how they go about that. And like, yeah.
Do you think he will be a high schooler? Because I hope he isn't, but he probably will be in this world.
I would presume so. I mean, the IDW comics,
the cool senior.
Well, in the IDW comics, April and Casey are like in college, so yeah, I think it for like it would fit for this because like I would say those comics, they're the Turtles are probably like 17 or 18.
Yeah.
I mean the 90s movie, they might as well be like 27. So like, this is a Beverly Hills 90210 situation over there. But
it is one of those weird things where like if you really take a step back, it's like, okay, so Casey in the first movie is like probably like 30.
Yeah.
And he's like hanging out with teenagers being like, hey man, like you're an idiot.
Yeah.
like this is a weird dynamic.
Well, and then also April is, I mean, if we're judging by the actress's age, she was 21 at the time too. But
wow.
Yeah. So it's
more. I learned
Casey Jones,
something new.
Prowler. Yeah, I would be interested to see what they do with that. Like, you feel like they would have to, like, they're gonna lean into the April Casey thing, and they wouldn't be able to age him up if they're gonna do that. So,
no.
Yeah, I feel like he would have to be a teenager. Kicked off the hockey team, getting detention. It's fine. I mean, did you watch the? So did you watch Rise of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles at all? No. Okay. The show is
I haven't watched an animated series since I think the 2003.
Yeah. Which has Sam Riegel from Critical Role in it. Yeah. He was Donatello, I believe. But yeah, so that show, you could get through it really quickly if you wanted to. It is like 2 seasons.
Okay.
It's good. It's not amazing. It's an interesting take on it. But Rob Paulson did the voice directing on it, and the voice cast is terrific. But yeah, I think the show is good. They did a movie that released on Netflix that is actually, I think, a more interesting version of like The Last Ronin, kind of, where it's actually Casey Jones coming from the post-apocalypse future, and it's a really cool take on like that sort of Terminator Dark Knight Returns ish kind of thing. But yeah, I don't know. What is there anything else that we didn't touch on with this? I feel like we missed something.
No, I mean,
we didn't really talk about Ice Cube all that much. He is just being Ice Cube, but I think it works perfectly in this movie.
Yeah.
Oh, the soundtrack. We didn't talk about the music at all. The licensed songs, all bangers, all inappropriate for young children. Lots of parental advisory stickers.
My wife put on the playlist the next day when we were packing up some stuff in our house, and Annie Up came on, and I like totally forgot like
the unedited version of that.
A lot of
a lot of other words like, too. Yeah.
Yeah.
But they're like,
just why?
Yeah. But that's like so there's that stuff, but like I'm going to have to see the movie again and really like pay attention to it, because I wasn't letting the score really like come to the forefront at all. And that's a shame, because it is Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross. Let alone their music scores. I've also just been a Nine Inch Nails fan for a really long time, but like it's one of those things where I'm like, I didn't in the moment didn't give enough like do to the score, that is a compliment to the rest of the movie, I would say.
Right, but I think it's hard because, like, I don't have a list in front of me, but like if I were to think back to like the things that they have done scores for, it's like it's nothing like this, right? Like it's not going to be a movie. It's not going to be a David Fincher.
Everybody's favorite drops, right? Mank.
Yeah, like none of those.
The Social Network, and
they don't have needle drops like this, and so it is hard when you have like a real score, but every other scene, it's like you're hearing a song that you recognize and know, and you're like, this song, like the score definitely plays second fiddle, no pun intended, because it is just not.
It was absolutely full of fiddles. Yes.
Yes, but it was just not as in your face as if you were watching any other movie they've done a score for. You would be like, whoa. And also, they're probably not going to make it as intense as some of the scores they've made.
But it like the parts subtle. Where I let it like. I did like sit and focus and let it like come forward is super, super fun. And like there's parts, and this has been confirmed now, I guess. They like straight up reference the original, not the arcade game, the original NES game, that like they take inspiration from that in some of it. And that's what like you do notice there's like a little bit of like video gaminess in the score when you're like paying attention to it. It's like, man,
I gotta go listen to it.
That's the thing, is like I think listening to it also might not give it justice. I think it's one of those things where you have to like be watching it and like pay attention to that part, because it's not like Spider-Verse where they made the music louder than the dialogue. So
yeah. It'd be one of those movies that might be interesting. There's no way they're going to do it because it's a Nickelodeon film, but it's like if they put it out on Blu-ray and have the score only.
Oh, like the Last Jedi thing with
version of watching it. Right.
I don't see them doing that, but I could see them doing what they did with and I mean a lot of movies do this. Like I saw Lord of the Rings Fellowship of the Ring this way in New York, scoring it with a live orchestra. Spider-Verse just did this.
The best.
Although it's not really an orchestral score, so I don't know how they would do it, but like it's just Trent Reznor up there beeping and
all I know is I saw
hitting beeps and boops the whole time.
I saw Amadeus with the LA Philharmonic Orchestra doing it at the Hollywood Bowl, and I would see plenty of movies that way. So it's fantastic.
My cultured self is automatically saying, because my brain works this way, Dr. Zayas. Yes. Amadeus. But I think so many parts of this movie work so well, and it's like, even if it isn't my favorite Ninja Turtles movie because of the attachment I have to the first one, I'm just so effing excited to see where it goes from here. I don't think
it's a very solid foundation, and I agree. Like, I think it's an awesome and it's a great foundation, and it leaves the movie and the story and the characters in a place that I truly have never seen the Ninja Turtles in, where it's like they are accepted. They are literally in high school at a high school dance. Like, what does that look like?
And they're not.
Like, that's so strange.
They're mixing in with a bunch of human beings and not wearing trench coats and fedoras.
Yeah. And I also like how different all their regular clothes are.
Yeah.
I don't know why Leo is so preppy, but I guess that makes sense. But
because he's the older brother, like tight knit guy. That's you gotta convey that with a polo.
If I had to take a stab in the dark, and this is not exactly like that surprising, I would imagine a big plot point of the fourth is going to be like all of their different cliques. They all have different friend groups. They're kind of becoming disparate, even though they need to come back together and like.
Well, I mean,
that's differences.
That's every Ninja Turtles thing, right? It's always about bringing them back together, and I like. I think that's fine. I think you can literally make this.
I think it's fine too.
In that way, you can make the same movie over and over and over, and it works with this franchise specifically. Cool, man. Well, also, I see that maybe being like the TV show plot line.
I mean, that could maybe actually, you're right. That probably makes more sense just because they have to. I guess they're doing 2 seasons before the movie comes out, so depending on how far along they are. But I mean, I would imagine that's going to be.
The disgusting makeout scenes with Splinter and Scumbug. Just the best gross out stuff. Oh God, I was cracking up when that was happening, and like the little inside baseball. Like, I don't think you even know this. For work, we had an exclusive on all the character posters when they released those, and I handled those for work. But after we posted them, we got a message from Paramount that said, "Hey, can you pull those and repost them, but leave out the Scumbug thing?" And they misgendered Scumbug in the poster because they wrote Scumbug as himself, and Scumbug is of the female persuasion. So it was it's just a very funny, weird thing.
This explains why I saw somewhere online somebody making a big deal about like, whoa, they're making Splinter queer. And it's
who cares if they did?
and then well, that, and 2, it's like, how can you tell?
I know,
It's Scumbug. Like, I was like, this could go either way, and it doesn't matter.
Yeah, but I'm glad after everything Splinter kept talking about, like, it's hard to meet mutants your age, and like the joke about like, and it's because I was slightly older than you as a normal rat, and you were a normal turtle, so now I'm much older than you now, and it makes sense. Don't question it. Like, the way that they handled all that was very good, and I think that that's just the more explanation of like everybody got an arc. Splinter was like, I'm lonely and I want to be loved by somebody that's similar to me, and then he gets to have a gross makeout session. It's fantastic.
Everybody gets laid.
Hey. What if they did what if they just had Rodney Dangerfield come out? Hey.
Rover Dangerfield.
What a reference.
Stay on brand.
Yeah. Always animated. It's got to be animated in an animated movie. Cool, man. Well, on that random reference note, thanks for coming back on, man.
Of course. Happy to talk, and we'll do it for the next one, I suppose.
Yeah, well, maybe we'll come back for the show first, and then do, the movie after that, or whatever. Well, I bet you all of those happened before the next season of The Last of Us, so you'll be back sooner for these.
Okay, fine.
Yeah.
Way to bum me out.
Yeah. Well, that show bums you out anyway, so it's fine.
That's true. All right. Well, thanks for having me, man.
Yeah, thanks for coming back again. Bye.